Hello, thanks very much indeed for the introduction, and thanks for, I suppose, to the BHA as a corporation for welcoming Onefinestay. I think maybe before I talk briefly about that, it's just worth, for those who are less familiar with our business, taking you back 6 years. This company started, mostly my fault, I always say, started actually inspired by an experience I had traveling in Italy. This was just around the corner from where I used to work in central London, in Mayfair. And the thing that really struck me about this, and indeed the reason I bring Italy into it, I had this experience when I was traveling of staying in a very authentic, having a very authentic experience of a local Italian city, Pisa. Came back to central London where my office is based around the corner from here in Mayfair, and I called it a no light bulb moment. And what's really striking to me about this picture, and indeed the reality of the centres of many cities, and some of the nicest parts of the nicest cities in the world, is they are like this. The lights aren't on. And the lights aren't on in these places because during swaths of the year, the owners of properties like this travel. Now that's great for our industry, but it does also denude the centre of our cities of their life, and of course of the businesses near these of the business that they could be doing if residents actually lived in these very special places. Onefinestay was a solution to that problem. In first and foremost, a solution for homeowners to make more of those beautiful homes when they were travelling. And by doing so, by providing a set of management services to homeowners of beautiful places, we thereby make it possible for guests to come and stay in very fine places in the centre of beautiful cities as an alternative to a luxury hotel or another accommodation option. And we facilitate that by a proprietary platform of services, cleaning, property maintenance and management, hospitality services that we supply to the hosts, we call them, and the guests who come to stay with us. The guest experience in brief, for those who don't know us or haven't tried us, or for that matter, haven't yet booked their summer holidays, you're very welcome to join us. The experience is not dissimilar. The booking process is not dissimilar to that you would experience from a luxury hotel. You book online. You choose from a selection of many thousands of very beautiful properties which are exclusively available through Onefinestay's platform. You'll pay a significant amount. I mean, we're not by any measure the cheapest option in the markets where we operate, but what you'll get for that is a curated selection of properties. We accept only around 1 in 10 of the properties that we evaluate for inclusion, and you'll receive the benefit of our managed services to ensure that your stay is outstanding from beginning to end. We'll meet you when you arrive. You'll be welcomed into a home that's not only been carefully selected, but has also been appointed, been cleaned. The linens and the high thread count linens, the fluffy towels are provided by us. It is, if you want, a boutique hotel experience in an upscale private home. And we're there for you during your time if you have questions or need service or other support. The model has been quite successful. We launched in 2010, 6 years ago, in London. The London business now, to all intents and purposes, is by some measure the largest luxury hotel operation in the city. We've since launched in other markets, New York, Paris, Los Angeles, and most recently Rome. And over the next few years, in partnership with our new shareholder, Accor Hotels, we'll be seeking to expand to many new markets internationally. We're targeting 40 cities over the next 5 years. This is a business which has been well received by the traditional travel industry, as well as one that's forging new ground. Many of these logos will be familiar to you from your own experience. And I think this touches for me on the central thrust of the comments I wanted to share with you, which is that it's very trendy these days to talk about disruption, to talk about the fact that new business models like ours, who are breaking new ground in terms of the service proposition and the customer experience that we're delivering, have to do so by blowing up what exists. As I've tried to characterize, not only was the inspiration of this business quite the opposite end of this, it was about taking what already exists in the form of beautiful private homes that are empty for periods of the year and making them available as an alternative to hotels or in addition to hotels. It's also a business that has thrived in partnership with, rather than in direct competition with, traditional vendors in the industry. Now, the way we think about this is actually that if you want to make a change, you're best off working with people rather than against them. Not only, of course, do you have to please your customers. Onefinestay achieves net promoter scores, typically excess of 70, which is exceptionally high, even for upscale accommodation companies. But we also work in partnership with some other key stakeholder groups. We work very closely with the cities where we operate. Now, clearly, it's important because we operate in those cities, but it's also important because we are fundamentally, we believe, creating value by bringing more business into the desolate centres of cities during periods of the year when they'd otherwise not receive that attention and that business. We clearly create value for our employees. We employ, as you've heard, more than 600 people. In fact, it's more than 700 people now. And those are jobs created in the local market. Those are not just software engineers sitting somewhere in a tower. Those are cleaners, those are service providers. We are, if you want, much more like a traditional hospitality company in that respect and a job creator. We work with industry. The logos I've just shown illustrate that. More than 1,000 travel agents are part of our travel agent program. And in a move that's, I know, extremely unfashionable these days for startup companies, we pay taxes. We pay sales taxes and occupancy taxes. We, in many ways, deliberately have chosen to adopt a good actor posture in respect of the industry. The reason we've been able to do that, and we think it's been an effective position to adopt, is precisely because our proposition is genuinely new and largely uncompetitive with some of the other innovative businesses that, of course, you've all read about and heard about. Not only do we exclusively focus on gateway markets and on unused or underused private homes in those markets, rather than, for instance, on professionally managed portfolios. That's not what we do. It's also the case that we're really the only business in our emerging segment that focuses on this full service model. And I think the punchline here is that if you are doing something new, and if you're doing something in a way that seeks to be not only a permanent part of the establishment, but ultimately something which benefits all of the constituents, both those who directly interact with your service and those who benefit from it through their adjacency to it, then ultimately you have to adopt this long-term position. It's also worth dwelling on this, the reason why Accor Hotels was keen to work with us and we they. You know, our business does not directly compete with some of those hotels whose service it's adjacent to. Rather, the type of stay that we offer, the experience we offer, benefits those groups who until now have often been poorly served by central city hotel alternatives. The typical Onefinestay experience will last for almost a week or maybe longer. It's a family who, if this alternative was to stay in 2 or 3 adjoining hotel rooms, would often struggle to get the sort of unique and private experience that they'd have wanted during their time visiting a city centre. So we're offering, if you will, the benefit to a community of people who are underserved by traditional products, and we're doing so in a way that seeks to benefit all parties. While after the news just before and over the weekend, we may, I think, be in a new and more uncertain period in respect of London and Britain's leadership globally, in this particular respect, London has led. The legislative change that took place in 2005 not only legitimised our operations in London in a free and fair way, and we think ultimately will benefit the hospitality sector here, but I think provides an excellent model and a template for other markets. We have constructive engagement with the regulators in New York, in Paris, in Los Angeles, and we're seeking that engagement in Rome. We find when we explain how our business works, who its benefits, the fact that it creates jobs, makes more use of city centres, and ultimately, if done respectably and responsibly, creates value for all parties. And we think that London has a leadership role to play here in showing what good and enlightened regulation looks like. As I wrap up, I will just say thank you for your time today. I will say not all disruption necessarily needs to be disruptive. And finally, I'll encourage you again, please, if you haven't booked your summer, the code's on the screen. We'd love to welcome you. Thanks very much indeed.